Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Galaxy Channel. Tonight we are going to lie down beside a strange and beautiful question and turn it over slowly, the way you might turn a smooth stone in your hand in the dark, not to solve it, only to feel its weight. The question is this: why does one side of Uranus never see the sun? And already there is a small paradox folded inside it, because Uranus does turn, it does spin, it rolls all the way around every 17 hours or so, and yet for a great long stretch of its journey, one whole hemisphere is turned entirely away from the light, held in a night that lasts not for an evening, not for a season, but for the length of a human lifetime and more. A world that spins and still keeps one cheek pressed forever into the dark. How can something be turning and yet never turn toward the light? That is the little knot we are going to loosen tonight, thread by thread, and you do not have to loosen it with me. You can simply listen. We will wander through 4 wide fields together before the night is through. We will look at how a whole planet came to lie down on its side, tipped over like a sleeper who rolled too far. We will follow the long tilted year of Uranus and the way its darkness pours slowly from one pole to the other. We will drift out to feel how far away it truly is, how faint and cold and distant, and we will let that distance become a comfort rather than a fear, and we will sit with the astronomers who first found it, ordinary people at the eyepieces of their telescopes, tracing something new into the map of the sky. 4 fields, and we will cross them at the pace of someone with nowhere to be. If you find this useful for your rest, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake tonight. Others in other rooms, in other cities, staring at their own dark ceilings looking for a voice to walk them down toward sleep. But that is for later, or for the morning, or for never. Right now there is nothing to press, nothing to decide. None of this is anything you need to hold on to. You do not need to remember the numbers. You do not need to follow the science. You do not need to arrive anywhere. Settle in. Let your shoulders ease down, away from your ears, down toward the mattress that is already holding all of your weight so that you do not have to. Let the backs of your hands grow heavy. Let your jaw come unclenched, your tongue rest low in your mouth, your breath lengthen without any effort on your part, in through the nose, and out, slow and unhurried, like a tide that has all the time in the world. Feel the pillow beneath your cheek, cool where your skin has not yet warmed it, and let your head sink into it a little further, the way a tired planet might lean its whole face into the dark, and simply stay there. That leaning is where we begin. Let's begin. Let us start with the strangeness itself, because it is worth sitting with before we explain it away. Nearly every planet we know spins more or less upright. Picture a child's spinning top set down on a table, humming as it turns, its axis pointing nearly straight up and down. The Earth spins that way, tilted just a little, a modest lean of about 23 degrees. Enough to give us our summers and our winters, but never enough to tip us over. Mars leans about the same. Even Saturn, that great ringed giant, keeps its axis fairly upright as it goes. But Uranus does not spin like a top on a table. Uranus spins like a top that has fallen over and kept spinning where it lies, rolling along on its side, its axis tipped by almost 98 degrees, more than a right angle, so that the poles that ought to point up and down instead point out toward the sun and away from it. And because of that single fact, that one long ago tumble, The light of the sun does not fall on Uranus the way it falls on us. It falls sideways. It pours onto one pole and leaves the other in shadow, and it stays that way, not for a night, but for a slow blue quarter of a year that is longer than any night a human being has ever known. Sit with that for a breath. A world lying on its side in the dark, turning as it goes, one face toward the faint far sun, and one face pressed into the cool of the pillow of space behind it, and that pressed face stays pressed for a very long time. There is nothing frightening in it. It is only a kind of rest we do not usually get to see, a rest measured in decades, a patience the planet keeps without ever growing weary of it. Now, why does a spinning world lying on its side still leave one side in permanent darkness, when here on Earth even the darkest polar winter eventually gives way to spring? The answer lives in the difference between two motions, and this is the first small thread we will follow gently to its end. A planet has two turnings. There is the fast turning, the spin, the way it rotates on its own axis to make its day and its night. And there is the slow turning, the orbit, the great patient loop it traces around the sun to make its year. On Earth, these two turnings work together kindly. Our axis leans only a little, so as we spin through each day, almost every part of the planet is carried into the light and then back out of it, around and around, a sunrise for nearly everyone, every single morning. Even at the poles, where the winter can hold a night that lasts for months, the slow turning of the year eventually swings that pole back toward the sun, and the long night ends and the long day begins. But now tip the whole world over onto its side, the way Uranus is tipped. Now the axis is not pointing up toward some overhead North Star. It is pointing nearly straight at the sun, or nearly straight away from it, depending on where the planet is in its long loop. And when a pole is pointing almost directly at the sun, the fast turning, the daily spin, no longer carries that region in and out of the light. It simply spins in place beneath a sun that never sets, going around and around like a dancer turning slowly under a single lamp that never moves. Meanwhile, on the far side of the world, the other pole is turned entirely away, spinning in place beneath a sky where the sun does not rise at all, only the stars, only the dark, hour after hour, and then day after day, and then year after year. The spin cannot save that hemisphere, because the spin is happening the wrong way round to it. Only the slow turning, only the long orbit can eventually bring the light back. And the orbit of Uranus is very, very slow. That is the heart of the paradox, and now it comes gently undone in your hands. Uranus never stops turning, but its turning runs in a circle that lies flat toward the sun, and so its spinning is like the turning of a wheel seen edge on, going around and around without ever bringing the far rim into the light. The darkness on the far side is not a stillness. It is a turning that happens to face away. And it will keep facing away until the whole planet, in its own slow time, leans the other direction. Let us feel how slow that time truly is, because it is the slowness that makes the darkness so long. The Earth takes 1 year to circle the sun, the year you know, the year of your birthdays and your seasons, 365 sunrises strung together like beads. Uranus takes 84 of our years to make the same single loop. 84 years. A full human life could pass, a whole life from the first cry to the last hushed breath, and Uranus would only just be completing one of its years, one single trip around the sun. And because the planet is tipped so far onto its side, That 84-year journey is divided into long seasons unlike any we know. For roughly a quarter of that orbit, about 21 of our years, the northern pole leans toward the sun and bathes in an unbroken day, while the southern pole is turned away into an unbroken night. Then, slowly over the next quarter, the planet swings around, and the light begins to reach across toward the other side. And then for another 21 years, the southern pole holds the day, and the northern pole holds the night. A night 21 years long. Longer than childhood. Longer than most of the things we measure our lives by. And through all of it, the planet is spinning, its short 17-hour days flickering past unseen beneath a sky that does not change. There is something in this that the tired part of you already understands. You know what it is to lie in the dark for a long time. You know the particular quality of a night that will not seem to end. And you know, too, that even the longest night does end, that the light always comes back around, that it is only a matter of the slow turning. Uranus knows this as well, in the only way a planet can know anything, which is simply by doing it, by turning through its long dark quarter with perfect patience, holding its far cheek against the cool dark, waiting without impatience for the light to come around again. It always comes around again. That is the promise folded inside the tilt. Now let us drift back in time, back to the question of how a whole world came to lie down like this in the first place, because that is a story worth telling in a hushed voice. When the sun was young, it was surrounded by a vast spinning disk of gas and dust, a great flat wheel of everything the planets would one day be made of, and out of that wheel, the planets slowly gathered themselves. Grain by grain, pebble by pebble, the small clumps pulling in the smaller ones, growing heavier, growing rounder, until they were worlds. And because they all condensed out of the same spinning disk, they were all born spinning more or less the same way, upright, their axes nodding only slightly, all turning in the same broad direction like leaves caught in the same slow current of a stream. That is why almost all the planets spin upright. They inherited it from the disk that made them. It is the memory of their birth. So Uranus should have been born upright too, spinning like its siblings, its axis nodding gently toward the north of the solar system. And for a long time, perhaps, it was. But something happened to it. Sometime in the deep early days, when the solar system was still crowded and unfinished, still full of half-formed worlds wandering on uncertain paths, something struck it, or leaned on it, and tipped it over. And that is the story we will follow next. Slowly. The way you would follow the plot of a bedtime tale you have heard many times before, and love precisely because you already know how it ends. The gentlest version of the story is a collision, though even the word collision can be softened here, because everything in space happens slowly, ponderously, over spans of time so long that even a catastrophe unfolds like a sigh. Picture the young Uranus, freshly made, spinning upright in the cold outer dark. And picture, drifting toward it across the emptiness, another body. A young world, perhaps as large as the Earth. One of the many leftover pieces that had not yet found a home. They draw together over thousands of years, pulled by the quiet insistence of gravity, until at last, in a moment that would have taken hours to complete, they meet, and the great body strikes Uranus not head-on, but from above, a glancing, tilting blow, enough to push the whole spinning planet over onto its side, the way a hand laid against the top of a spinning top will lean it over without stopping it. The planet kept spinning. It only spun, from then on, lying down. We do not know for certain that this is what happened, It may have been not one great blow, but many smaller nudges, the slow gravitational tugging of a lost moon, or the patient pull of the other giant planets over long ages, leaning Uranus gradually over across millions of years, so slowly that there was never a single dramatic moment at all, only a long, serene, imperceptible tipping. Like the way a sleeper's head slides slowly down the pillow through the course of a night, until, by morning, it rests at an angle no one chose. Perhaps it was sudden, and perhaps it was slow. Either way, the ending is the same. The planet lies on its side now, and it has lain that way for billions of years, and it will lie that way for billions more, turning its long tilted face patiently toward and then away from the distant light. Let this be the thread we carry with us through everything that follows tonight, this image of the long tilted night held like a cheek against a cool pillow. It is not a darkness that is afraid of itself. It is not a darkness reaching for you or wanting anything from you. It is only a world resting its face against the cool of space, the way you are resting your face against the cool of your pillow right now, turning slowly in the dark, in no hurry at all to turn back. The darkness on the far side of Uranus is not an absence. It is a form of rest. And you are allowed, tonight, to rest in exactly the same way, to let one side of yourself sink into the dark and simply stay there, unhurried, unafraid, held. Let us stay a while longer with that far side of the planet, the hemisphere held in its long night, and let us walk out onto it in our imaginations, softly, the way you might walk out onto a cold field at midnight, wrapped warm, only to look up. If you could stand on the night side of Uranus, or hover above it, since there is no solid ground there to stand upon, only deep layers of cloud and slush, and an ocean of strange, warm ices going down and down, you would look up into a sky with no sun in it. Not a dim sun, not a low sun sitting near the horizon, no sun at all. And this night would not be like our night, broken every few hours by a dawn. This would be a night that held its place in the sky, unchanging, hour after hour. The same stars wheeling slowly overhead as the planet spun beneath them, but never once tilting back toward the light. You could watch and wait, and the darkness would only deepen its quiet. It would not lift for you today, or tomorrow, or next year, and yet it would not press on you either. It would simply be vast and even and serene, a darkness with nothing in it that wishes you harm. And what a strange, faint darkness it is out there, because even on the day side of Uranus, the sun is not the great warm coin it is for us. Uranus circles the sun at a distance so enormous that the light arriving there is dim beyond easy imagining. The planet swims through the outer cold nearly 2 billion miles from the sun, 19 times farther out than the Earth, and light grows fainter with distance in a way that adds up quickly, so that by the time the sunlight reaches Uranus, it is roughly 400 times weaker than the sunlight that warms your window in the afternoon. 400 times fainter. The sun seen from Uranus is not a disk you could rest your gaze upon. It is a single brilliant point, a fierce small star, brighter than anything else in that black sky, but small, so small, a diamond pinned to velvet, casting a pale twilight over the blue-green clouds even at high noon. Even the day side of Uranus lives in a kind of perpetual dusk, the long, slow dusk of a winter afternoon that never quite becomes morning and never quite becomes night. And the far side, the night side, has even that faint point taken away. There is only starlight, and the dim glow of distant worlds, and the deep, even, restful dark. I want you to let that faintness be a comfort tonight, rather than a loneliness. Out there, the light is soft because it has traveled so far to arrive. It is a light that has crossed nearly 2 billion miles of empty space, patiently, without hurrying, to lay itself down as a pale glow across those far clouds. There is a tenderness in a light that dim, a light too gentle to dazzle, too faint to wake anything, a light you could sleep beneath the way you might sleep beneath the tender green numbers of a clock across a dark bedroom. Nothing out there is harsh. Nothing out there is bright enough to sting. The whole world is turned low, like a lamp dimmed for the night, like a house grown hushed after everyone in it has finally gone to bed. Let us follow the light itself now, and trace how the seasons of Uranus turn, because there is a slow music in the way the long day gives way to the long night. And I think it will settle you to follow it. Begin at the moment astronomers call the solstice, when one pole leans most directly toward the sun. At that moment, the northern pole, let us say, is bathed in its fullest day, the small bright sun circling low around its sky, never setting, tracing a tight ring near the horizon that goes around and around without ever dipping below it. It is the height of the northern summer, though even this summer is a cold and dusky thing by our measure. And on the far side, the southern pole is at the very depth of its winter, the very middle of its long night, the sun not merely set but entirely hidden, 21 of our years from ever seeing dawn. Now let the planet begin to move along its orbit, slowly, so slowly, a fraction of a degree at a time, patient across the years. As it moves, the direction its poles lean begins, gradually, to change. The northern pole, which leaned so fully toward the sun, begins to lean a little less directly. The tight ring the sun traced around its sky begins to loosen, to widen, to sink slightly lower with each passing year. And on the far side, in the long southern night, something is beginning to stir on the horizon, though it will take years to arrive, the faintest possible promise of a coming dawn, a paleness at the very rim of the dark that grows, imperceptibly, a little each season. The light is coming around. It is always coming around. It only takes its time. And then, decades on, the planet reaches the point in its orbit astronomers call the equinox. And here something happens that happens nowhere else in quite the same way, and it is worth pausing over. At the equinox of Uranus, the sun stands over the planet's equator. And for this brief span, brief only by the standards of an 84-year year, the whole planet has ordinary days and ordinary nights again. The sun rises and sets across the sky in the short 17-hour rhythm of the planet's spin, sweeping around, lighting one side and then the other, giving even the poles a strange flickering succession of sunrises and sunsets they will not see again for decades. For this little while, Uranus turns like an ordinary world, and the light touches nearly everywhere. And then the planet moves on, and tips again, and the long day and the long night return, only now they have traded places. The pole that held the light now turns away into the dark, and the pole that held the dark now turns, at last, toward the light. The night that lasted 21 years ends, and a new night, on the other side, begins. There is a fairness in it that I find deeply restful, and I hope you feel it too, sinking a little deeper into the mattress as you do. No side of Uranus holds the light forever, and no side holds the dark forever. The turning is perfectly even, perfectly balanced, each hemisphere given its long day and then its long night in equal measure, over and over. across the billions of years. It is not that one side is favored and one side is forsaken. It is only that the light and the dark take turns, slowly, as light and dark have always taken turns, everywhere, on every world, since the very beginning. The dark side tonight will be the bright side in a lifetime's time. And that is not a loss. It is a rhythm. It is the oldest rhythm there is, the same rhythm your own breath is keeping right now, in and then out, light and then dark, filling and then emptying, each one making room for the other. Let us leave the mechanics of the tilt for a while and drift back to the people who first found this world, because there is a hushed human warmth in that story, and it belongs to the night. For nearly all of human history, no one knew Uranus was there. The ancients named the planets they could see with their own eyes, the wandering lights that moved against the fixed stars: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, 5 wanderers, known to every culture that ever looked up, watched and charted and woven into 1,000 stories, for thousands upon thousands of years. And beyond Saturn, as far as anyone knew, there was nothing but the fixed and distant stars. The solar system, to every human being who had ever lived, ended at Saturn. It was the edge of the known. It was the last lamp on the last street before the dark. Uranus was there all along, of course, faintly visible if you knew exactly where to look. A dim point of blue-green light so faint and so slow that it slipped past every watcher for age after age, mistaken, when it was noticed at all, for just another dim star among the countless dim stars. It had been seen and recorded more than once by careful astronomers cataloging the heavens, but always they wrote it down as a star and moved on, never noticing that this particular star, over the months, over the years, was quietly moving. It kept its secret patiently. It waited, dim and blue, at the edge of the map for someone to look at it long enough and carefully enough to see that it was not a star at all. That someone was a musician, which is a detail I love to rest in. He was an organist and a composer who had come to a new country to make his living by music, playing in concert halls, teaching, arranging, filling his days with sound. But his true passion, the thing that kept him up through the long nights, was the sky. He ground his own mirrors and built his own telescopes, larger and finer than almost any then in use, working at them with the same patience he brought to a difficult passage of music, polishing the glass for hours by hand, night after night, until it could gather the faint light of very dim things. And with his sister beside him, keeping the records, reading out the figures, watching over him through the cold hours, he set about a long, methodical survey of the whole sky, sweeping his telescope slowly across it, cataloging everything he saw, one small patch at a time. Picture those nights. A dark garden. A tall wooden telescope pointed up at the stars. A man at the eyepiece in the cold, calling out what he saw, and his sister nearby, wrapped against the chill, writing it all down by the light of a shaded lamp. Hour after quiet hour, the two of them working through the darkness together while the rest of the town slept. There is something in that picture that belongs to tonight. The patience of it, the hush of it. Two people awake and content in the dark, looking up, in no hurry, letting the sky come slowly to them. And on one such night, sweeping across a certain small region of stars, he came upon a point of light that was not quite like the others. It was not a sharp pinprick the way a star is. It seemed to have a tiny disk, the faintest roundness, a size. And when he came back to it on later nights, he found that it had moved. At first he thought it was a comet, for comets were known to wander, and a new comet would have been a fine discovery in itself. He wrote to other astronomers, and they turned their own telescopes toward it, and together they watched it night after night, measuring its slow path across the stars. But it did not behave like a comet. It had no tail, no fuzzy halo, no long stretched orbit diving in toward the sun and back out again. It moved slowly, evenly, in a great calm circle far beyond Saturn, in the steady manner of a planet. And slowly, over the following months, as the measurements came in and the truth settled over them, the astronomers of the world realized what the quiet musician had found. He had found a new planet. He had pushed back the edge of the known solar system, doubled its size in a single stroke, added a whole new world beyond the last one anyone had ever known. For the first time in all of human history, a planet had been discovered, one that no ancient people had ever seen, one that had waited at the edge of the dark for thousands of years for a patient man with a homemade telescope to notice it moving. Let that discovery be a soft thing you hold as you drift, the idea that there was. Until quite recently, a whole world out there that no one knew about, waiting silently in the dark, harming no one, wanting nothing, simply turning on its side and keeping its long, patient seasons, entirely at peace whether anyone had found it or not. It did not need to be discovered to be well. It was complete in its darkness. It had its long day, and its long night, and its slow blue clouds, and it kept them faithfully whether a single human eye had ever fallen on it or not. There is a great restfulness in that, in the thought of a world that is perfectly fine on its own, that asks nothing of us, that would go on turning just the same if every one of us closed our eyes tonight and did not open them until morning. You can let your eyes close now. Uranus will keep turning. It does not need you to watch. And the name it was given, in the end, came from the oldest of the sky gods, the personification of the heavens themselves, the great dark vault of stars, so that the planet is named, fittingly, for the night sky in which it hides, a world named for the darkness, resting in the darkness, turning its long face slowly through the darkness. It could hardly have a more suitable name for the hour we are in now, this low, tranquil hour, when you too are wrapped in the same darkness, resting your own face against your own cool pillow, turning slowly, if at all, toward sleep. Now let us drift out to the planet itself again, and let ourselves imagine being carried there, softly, across all that dark distance. Because you are being carried tonight, whether you notice it or not. You are being carried by the earth, which is turning beneath you at this very moment, wheeling you slowly through the night toward a morning that is already on its way. You are being carried by your own breath, rising and falling without any command from you, tending you faithfully while you rest. You are being carried by the bed, by the floor beneath the bed, by the patient ground beneath the floor, all of it holding you up so that you do not have to hold yourself. Let yourself be carried now, out past the moon, out past the small red curve of Mars, out past mighty Jupiter with its slow storms, out past the rings of Saturn, and onward into the deep, peaceful cold where Uranus turns, and let the journey take as long as it likes. Because out here there is no such thing as being late. Imagine drifting down toward those blue-green clouds, slowly, the way a leaf drifts down through still water. In no hurry to land, the whole planet grows before you, a smooth, featureless sphere of the most tender color, a pale aquamarine, almost the color of a shallow sea seen from above, or the color of the sky just after the last light has gone, but before the true dark, that soft blue-green that lives for only a few minutes at dusk and then is gone. On Uranus, it is not gone. It is the color of the whole world, always, a hush made visible, a serene and even blue-green that wraps the planet from pole to pole without a seam. There are almost no features on it, few of the great swirling bands and spots that mark the other giant planets. Uranus is smooth, calm-faced, hushed, its clouds drawn out into the faintest of pale stripes, a world that seems to have composed itself into perfect evenness, like water that has finally, completely gone still. And the color itself is a gift the darkness gives. That tender blue-green comes from a gas called methane, high in the planet's air, which drinks in the red light of the faint far sun and lets only the blue and green escape back out to be seen. The warm colors are absorbed, taken in, held. The cool colors are released. And so the planet wears the color of coolness itself, the color of deep water and evening shade, a color that has never in the history of your life been anything but restful to look upon. When you picture Uranus, picture that. Not a fearsome place. Not a harsh or hostile place. A smooth, pale blue-green sphere turning slowly on its side in the dark, wearing the most restful color there is, serene all the way down. But let us go down into it, gently, because there is a strangeness beneath those clouds that turns out, when you understand it, to be another kind of comfort. Uranus is not a world with a solid surface you could ever stand upon. If you sank down through those blue-green clouds, you would not fall toward any ground. You would simply pass into thicker and thicker air, denser and denser, warmer and warmer, the pressure gathering slowly around you like the weight of many warm blankets, until the air was so thick it was less like air and more like a fluid, and then less like a fluid and more like a strange warm ocean with no shore and no bottom, an ocean of water and ammonia and methane pressed together under enormous weight, an ocean that fades into the planet without any surface ever announcing itself. There is no dividing line. There is no floor. There is only a slow, deep, continuous thickening, down and down, from the faint cold cloud tops to the warm, strange heart of the world. And at the very center, deep beneath that great slushy ocean, there is thought to be a core about the size of the Earth, a dense, warm heart of rock and ice under pressures so vast they are difficult to hold in the mind. And there, in that crushing warm dark at the center of the planet, some scientists think the pressure may do something wonderful to the carbon in the methane, squeezing it over the long ages into diamond. Diamonds forming in the deep warm dark, and perhaps drifting slowly downward through the dense fluid like a slow snow. A rain of diamonds falling through the heart of a planet, silently, endlessly, in a darkness no light has ever reached. Whether it truly happens, no one can say for certain. But I love to offer it to you at this hour. The image of that slow, bright snow falling forever through the warm, dark middle of a distant world, harming nothing, seen by no one, simply falling, the way snow falls outside a window while you sleep, the way your own thoughts are beginning, now to drift slowly downward and settle. There is nothing to fear in any of that depth, in any of that pressure, in any of that dark. It is all very far away, and it is all very calm. The planet is not straining under its own weight. It is simply resting under it, the way you are resting now under the pleasant weight of your own blankets, the way the deep sea rests under the weight of all the water above it, untroubled, patient, held together not by struggle, but by the quiet, steady pull of its own gravity, which asks nothing, hurries nothing, and never once lets go. Everything out there is holding together. Everything out there is at rest. And you too are held together. And you too are at rest. And the far warm heart of Uranus and the slow warmth at your own center are, in this hour, doing the very same thing, which is simply, softly, to be. Let us think now about the cold, because the far side of Uranus is one of the coldest places in the whole solar system, and I want to turn that cold, too, into something you can rest inside rather than something that makes you pull the blankets tighter. The temperature at the cloud tops of Uranus falls to around 200 degrees below zero, far colder than the coldest winter night that has ever been recorded anywhere on Earth, so cold that the very idea of it seems to belong to another kind of existence entirely. And yet cold, out there, is not cruelty. Cold is only slowness. Cold is what happens when things grow calm, when the restless jostling of warmth quiets down, when the atoms that in a warm place would be trembling and colliding and rushing about instead slow and settle and grow still. The cold of Uranus is the cold of a world that has grown perfectly calm, that has let go of its heat into the vast dark and has stopped needing to move. It is the stillness of deep winter, the hush that comes over a landscape under snow. The way a field goes silent and soft and motionless beneath the falling white, cold is the sound of things coming to rest. And here is a curious tenderness in the story of Uranus and its cold. Of all the giant planets, Uranus gives off the least warmth of its own. The others, Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune, all glow faintly from within, radiating out more heat than they receive from the distant sun, each of them warm at the core with the leftover fire of its making. But Uranus is quiet even in this. It gives off almost no heat of its own at all, as though, alone among the giants, it long ago let its inner fire bank down to embers and settled into a deeper calm than any of its siblings. No one is entirely sure why. Perhaps that ancient blow that tipped it on its side also somehow let much of its birth heat escape, so that it cooled early and cooled deep. Whatever the reason, Uranus is the most tranquil of the giants, the one that keeps the least fire, the one that has, in a sense, most fully come to rest. It is the sleeper among the planets, the one that has settled furthest down into the cool and the calm, and lies there now, undisturbed. You may feel your own body cooling a little as you lie here, your hands and your feet growing cooler as you sink toward sleep, and this is not something gone wrong. It is something going right. As you drift down toward rest, your body loosens its grip on its own warmth a little, lets its edges cool, draws its heat inward toward its warm center, and this cooling is one of the oldest signals of sleep there is, a sign that you are letting go, that you are settling, that you are following Uranus down into the deep calm cold. Let your hands be cool. Let your feet be cool. Let the cool edge of the pillow rest against your cheek. The cool is not against you. The cool is carrying you down. Now let us widen out and feel the scale of it all, because I think the scale of these things, held rightly, is one of the most restful thoughts there is, and I want to give it to you slowly. We have been speaking of a world nearly 2 billion miles away. That distance is so large that the words for it come apart in the mind and stop meaning very much, and so let us translate it into something the body can feel. Light, which is the fastest thing there is, which crosses the entire width of the Earth many times in a single second, takes about 2 hours and 40 minutes to travel from the Sun out to Uranus. 2 hours and 40 minutes for light itself, the swiftest messenger in all of creation, to make that crossing. If the Sun were to go dark this instant, Uranus would go on shining in the old light for over 2.5 hours before the darkness reached it. That is how far away it is. That is how much emptiness lies between here and there, a gulf so wide that even light must take its patient time to cross it. And yet, Uranus is not even the edge. Beyond it lies Neptune, farther still, and beyond Neptune a vast belt of icy worlds, and beyond that, the long, slow reaches where comets sleep. A shell of frozen wanderers stretching out perhaps 1,000 times farther than Uranus, so far that a comet out there takes millions of years to make a single loop around the Sun. And beyond even that, the nearest other star, so distant that its light, that same swift light, takes not hours, but years to reach us. 4 years and more. Crossing an emptiness beside which the whole distance to Uranus is only a single small step off the porch. The scale of it goes up and up and up, past every number the mind can hold, out into a vastness with no end that we have ever found. And here is the strange gift in that vastness, the thing I most want to leave with you tonight. It is not frightening. It is peaceful. Because in all that unimaginable immensity, in all those billions of miles of cold and tranquil dark, there is room. There is room enough for everything, and to spare. Nothing out there is crowded. Nothing out there is rushed. The planets swing through their enormous orbits with oceans of empty stillness between them, never colliding, never crowding. Each one given more space than it could ever use, all of them turning in the same great unhurried silence. The universe is not a cramped and anxious place. It is the most spacious thing there is. It is roomy beyond all measure, patient beyond all measure, hushed beyond all measure. And you are a part of it. The same vast, easy spaciousness that holds Uranus in its slow orbit holds you, too, right now, in your small, warm bed, and there is room enough here for you to let go of absolutely everything, to set down every worry, to loosen every held thing. Because the universe is under no pressure at all, and so tonight, neither are you. Feel how small the worries of the day become against that scale, and feel, too, how gently they are held there. Whatever you carried into this room tonight, whatever you were turning over as you lay down, set it now on the great calm scale of these distances and watch it grow quiet. On the scale of 2 billion miles, on the scale of 84-year years, on the scale of a night that lasts 2 decades, the frets of a single human day grow soft and small and far away, not erased, not dismissed, only set gently into proportion, given their true and modest size, laid down at last in a universe with room enough to hold them all without the slightest strain. You do not have to carry them tonight. The dark is wide enough to hold them for you. It has been holding far heavier things, far longer, without ever once growing tired. Let us return to the tilt once more, because there is a detail in it we have not yet touched, and it is a beautiful one to rest inside. When a planet lies on its side the way Uranus does, everything that circles it lies on its side too. Uranus has rings, faint dark rings, thinner and dimmer than the bright rings of Saturn, made of dark chunks of ice and rock the color of coal. And because the planet is tipped over, those rings do not lie flat around its middle the way Saturn's do. They stand up vertically, like a great dark target set on edge, a set of dim circles turned to face the sun and the far dark by turns as the planet swings along its orbit. And Uranus has moons, more than 24 of them, and they too orbit in that same tipped plane, circling not around the planet's equator in the ordinary way, but up and over its tilted poles, wheeling around a world lying on its side, a whole small system tipped together, all of it leaning the same long lean, all of it keeping the same long seasons of light and dark. The moons are named, unusually, not for the old gods, but for characters out of plays and poems, out of the works of the great dramatist and the great poets, so that circling this peaceful blue-green world are little icy bodies bearing the names of dreamers and lovers and sprites and kings from stories, from the airy spirits of enchanted islands to the doomed lovers of old tragedies. There is something fitting in that, in a world so dreamlike, being ringed by moons named for dreams. And the largest of them are strange and lovely places in their own right, cratered and cracked and folded. One of them marked by a cliff so tall that on a world with such faint gravity a stone dropped from its top would take many long minutes to reach the bottom, falling slowly, slowly, through the dim light, in no more hurry than anything else out there. Everything on Uranus falls slowly. Everything on Uranus turns slowly. It is a place where even a falling stone has time to spare. Picture one of those moons now, a small pale world of ice, circling its great tipped planet in the deep quiet, keeping its own long day and its own long night. Picture standing on its frozen surface, if you could, and looking up to see Uranus filling half the sky, an enormous smooth sphere of soft blue-green light hanging silent overhead, turning too slowly to see, its faint dark rings standing up beside it like a ring of still smoke, and beyond it all the deep field of stars, unblinking, undimmed by any air, sharp and steady and calm. No sound, no wind, no hurry, only the great blue-green world above you, and the slow certain wheeling of the stars, and the deep, even, restful dark stretching away on every side. It would be one of the quietest views in all of creation, and there would be nothing in it that meant you any harm, nothing that wanted anything from you, only stillness and softness, and the slow turning of a patient world. Let us follow the light of the far sun down through the rings and think for a moment about what a sunrise would look like out there after one of those 21-year nights. Because the dawn of Uranus is a slow and tender thing, and it will settle you to imagine it. When the light finally begins to return to a hemisphere that has been dark for 2 decades, it does not come the way our dawn comes, in a sudden flush of gold across the horizon, birdsong and brightening and the swift arrival of the day. It comes slowly, over years, a paleness gathering imperceptibly at the edge of the long dark, a faint gray lifting so gradually that no one could ever mark the moment it began. Season by season, the far small sun climbs a little higher above the rim of the world, and the deep dark thins to the faintest twilight, and the twilight thins across the patient years toward the pale dusky day. It is the slowest sunrise imaginable, a dawn measured not in minutes but in seasons, a light that takes years to fully arrive. And there is something in that unhurried return that I find endlessly reassuring. The way the light comes back not with a shock, but with the utmost gentleness, easing itself into the long dark so slowly that the dark is never startled, only gradually, gently relieved. That is how the light will come to you too in the morning. Not now, not soon, but in its own time, easing itself gradually across the dark of your room, thinning the night by imperceptible degrees, so slowly you will never catch the moment it begins, until at last. Without any effort on your part, the morning will simply be there, arrived, the way it always arrives, faithful and unhurried and kind. You do not have to wait up for it. You do not have to watch for it. The light knows the way back. It has made this journey a billion times to a billion darknesses, and it has never once failed to arrive. You can let the dark hold you now, all the way through, trusting the light to find you in its own slow time, the way it always finds Uranus after even the longest of its long nights. Let us rest a moment in the long tilted night of the planet again, our thread, the cheek pressed against the cool pillow of space. I want you to notice how the whole planet, tipped as it is, does not fight its tilt. It does not strain to right itself. It does not struggle to lift its fallen axis back upright. It simply accepts the lean it was given, all those billions of years ago, and makes a life of it, makes long, slow seasons of it, makes a rhythm and a music of it, turning its patient face through the light, and then the dark, and then the light again, at peace with the very thing that made it strange. There is a lesson folded in there, if you want one, though you need not take it, about how the thing that tips us over need not be the thing that ruins us, about how a life lived on its side can still be a whole life, a balanced life, a life with its own long summers and its own long restful, well-earned nights. But you do not have to take the lesson. You can simply let the image hold you, a great calm world, leaning, at ease with its lean, turning its cheek slowly against the cool dark, in no hurry, ever, to sit back up. There is only one time in all of history that we have visited Uranus up close, and the story of that single visit is a hushed and lovely one that belongs to the deep part of the night. A small spacecraft, no larger than a car, launched from the Earth long ago, sailed for years and years across the emptiness, past Jupiter, past Saturn, out and out into the cold, until at last, after nearly a decade of travel, it came upon Uranus, and for a few brief hours it flew close by, its cameras and instruments drinking in everything they could of that strange tipped world before thee. Momentum carried it on past, out toward Neptune and then out of the solar system entirely, never to return. A single visitor in all of time. A single afternoon of close attention, after a journey of years. And everything we truly know about the up-close face of Uranus, the fine details of its rings and its moons, and its pale even clouds, comes from that one brief patient flyby. That one small machine sailing silently through the dark, doing its quiet work as it passed, and then sailing on. That little spacecraft is still out there tonight, you know. It did not stop. It is still going, farther now than any of the planets, out past the edge of everything, carried onward by the momentum it gathered long ago, sailing through the great dark between the stars in perfect silence, its instruments long since gone hushed, its work long since done, drifting on and on into the deep, carrying with it a small golden record of who we were and where it came from, in case anyone, ever, in the unimaginable reaches of time, should find it. And there is something about that lone, small traveler, still sailing, still bearing its patient message outward through the endless calm, that seems to me one of the tenderest things human beings have ever done. We sent a small, quiet part of ourselves out into the dark, not to conquer anything, not to take anything, only to look, and to remember, and to carry a hello outward into the silence on the faint chance that someone might one day be listening. It is out there now. It is passing through the same great dark that holds Uranus. And it is entirely at peace. Let us think, softly, about time, because everything we have spoken of tonight is soaked in time, in spans so long that they carry a peculiar comfort of their own. Uranus was tipped over billions of years ago, in the youth of the solar system, and it has kept its long, slow seasons faithfully ever since, turning through untold thousands of its 84-year years, more years than there have been human beings, more years than there have been anything on the earth that walks or crawls or grows. Every one of those long nights it has held has already ended. Every one of those long days has already faded into dark and come back into light. The planet has been keeping this rhythm since before the Earth had oceans, since before the first faint stirring of anything alive anywhere, and it will keep it long after, on and on, into a future so distant it makes the mind go soft and quiet, just to reach toward it. And there is such rest in that, in the thought of a rhythm so much older and so much more patient than any of our small urgencies. Whatever felt so pressing today, whatever seemed as though it had to be settled tonight, is a small, brief flicker against that enormous, slow turning. The planet does not hurry. The planet has never once hurried in all the billions of years of its turning, and it has come to no harm from taking its time. It has all the time there is, and it spends it lavishly, one slow season at a time. Unbothered, unhurried, unafraid, you can borrow a little of that patience now. You can let tonight be long. You can let sleep come at its own slow pace, in its own slow time, the way the light comes back to the dark side of Uranus, without being hurried, without being forced, arriving on its own when it is ready, the way it always does. And notice, as you lie here, that you are already doing the very thing the planet does. You are turning slowly through your own dark. You are keeping your own long night. You are resting one side of yourself against the cool of the pillow and letting it stay there, unbothered, in no hurry to turn back toward the light. The whole vast machinery of the sky, the tilt and the orbit, and the long slow seasons, is only a great and distant echo of the small simple thing your own body is doing right now, which is to lie still in the dark and let the night carry it gently toward the morning. You are not separate from all of this. You are made of the same stuff as Uranus, the same ancient atoms forged in the same old stars, keeping the same old rhythm of light and dark, turning through the same great serene. You belong out there as much as anything does. And you belong here too, in this bed, in this dark, in this quiet, exactly as much, exactly as fully, exactly as at home. Let us return once more to the far side, the night side, the hemisphere that will not see the sun for 20 long years, and let us make our peace with it fully now, because I do not want you to leave tonight thinking of that darkness as anything sad. It is not sad. It is not lonely. It is not forsaken. It is simply resting. That whole vast hemisphere, larger than any night the earth has ever known, is turned away from the light, not because it is being punished, not because it has been forgotten, but because it is that side's turn to rest. The way it is now, your turn to rest. And rest is not a lesser thing than waking. Rest is the other half of everything. There is no light without the dark that lets it be seen. No waking without the sleep that makes it possible. No long, slow summer without the long, slow winter that comes before it and after it, and makes the summer mean anything at all. The dark side of Uranus is not the failure of the light. It is the completion of it. It is the deep-held breath before the slow exhale of the dawn. And so when we ask, why does one side of Uranus never see the sun, we find, in the end, that the question softens into something almost tender. It is not that one side is denied the light forever. It is that the planet, tipped long ago onto its side, takes the light and the dark in turns so long and so slow that from where we stand, in our short bright lives, the long night looks like it will never end. But it always ends. The light always comes around. It is only the slowness that fools us, only the vast patient scale of it, only the fact that a single one of the planet's nights is longer than most of the things we use to measure our days. Given time, given enough of that endless patient time the universe has in such abundance, every dark side becomes a bright side, and every bright side becomes a dark side, and the whole thing turns and turns, fair and even and tranquil, forever. There is no permanent night out there. There is only a night so long that it teaches us patience. And you can rest inside that patience, now, all the way down. Let us drift now into the winds of Uranus, because even the storms of this quiet world are, in their way, a lullaby. You might think that a planet lying on its side, with such extreme seasons, with a whole hemisphere plunged into a 20-year night, while the other basks in a 20-year day, would be torn by violent weather, ripped by winds trying to carry heat from the bright side to the dark. And there are winds there, fast winds, faster than any hurricane the Earth has ever known, streaming around the planet in broad, smooth currents. But you would never hear them, and you would never feel them as fury, because they move in the vast calm way that everything moves out there, in long, slow-drawn ribbons wrapped around the whole world, sliding past one another without violence, without the sudden gusting chaos of a storm on Earth. They are more like the slow, deep currents of a great ocean than like the tearing gales of a tempest, mighty but unhurried, powerful but perfectly smooth, carrying their great banners of pale cloud around and around the planet in silence. It is weather that has been stretched out so wide and so slow that all its violence has been combed out of it, leaving only the long, even flowing, like the slow breathing of the whole world. And every so often, rarely, a pale bright cloud will bloom high in that blue-green air, a soft white smudge appearing out of the peaceful, drifting for a while, and then fading back into the evenness. These are the only real events on the face of Uranus, these slow blooming clouds, appearing and dissolving over weeks and months, so subtle that for a long time astronomers thought the planet had almost no weather at all, that it was simply a smooth blank ball of calm blue-green. It took our best telescopes, watching patiently over years, to catch these faint slow clouds forming and fading. The softest possible weather, the gentlest possible storms, a world where even the tempests are hushed. Picture one of those pale clouds now, blooming slowly high in that tender blue-green air, spreading softly, drifting a while in the long smooth wind, and then, without any drama, fading away again into the hushed. That is the most that ever happens on Uranus. That is the whole of its excitement, a soft white cloud, appearing and dissolving in the quiet. You could watch it for a lifetime and never once be startled. Let us go back, once more, to the very question, and hold it now the way you might hold something small and warm in your cupped hands as you finally begin to fall. Why does one side of Uranus never see the sun? Because long ago the planet was tipped onto its side, and now it lies down as it turns, one pole toward the light and one pole away, and its year is so long, 84 of hours, that when a pole turns away from the sun, It stays turned away, not for a night, but for 21 years. A night longer than we have words to make ordinary. That is the answer, and it is simple, and it is complete. And now that you hold it, you can let it go, because you do not need to keep it. You do not need to carry the answer with you into sleep. You needed only to feel the question soften in your hands, to feel its strangeness become familiar, to feel its darkness become a kind of rest. And it has. The knot is loosened. The thread lies slack. There is nothing more to solve tonight. I want to spend a while now simply describing the quiet out there, letting the words themselves slow and settle, because sometimes it is not the facts, but the hush between them that carries you down. Imagine the space around Uranus, the vast dark room in which it turns. There is no air out there to carry sound, and so it is a silence more complete than any silence you have ever known. A silence with no edges, no distant hum, no faint ringing, nothing at all. Only the pure and total stillness of the deep. The stars do not twinkle out there. Because there is no air to make them shiver, they hang instead perfectly steady, sharp, unwavering points of white and blue and faint gold, thousands upon thousands of them, unblinking, patient, still. And through that steady, silent field of stars, the great blue-green planet turns, slowly, its faint rings standing on edge, its little moons wheeling around it in their long, slow paths, all of it moving without a sound, all of it bathed in the faint, far light of the small, bright sun, all of it perfectly, endlessly, completely at peace. There is nowhere in all of that vast scene where anything is hurrying. There is nowhere where anything is afraid. It is the most tranquil place you could ever imagine, and it is real, and it is out there right now, turning quietly in the dark while you lie here, turning quietly in yours. Feel your breath again now, the slow rise and the slower fall, and let it match the slowness of that distant world. In through the nose, and a long, easy pause, and then out, slow, all the way out, emptying without effort. There is no rush to fill again. There is no rush to do anything. Your breath will tend to itself faithfully all night long, the way the planet tends to its turning, without your having to watch over it, without your having to hold it, without your having to try. You can hand your breathing back to your body now, entirely, and let it go on all by itself in the dark, the way Uranus goes on turning all by itself in the dark, the way the whole enormous patient universe goes on all by itself in the dark, needing nothing from you, asking nothing of you, glad simply to hold you while you rest. Let us wander back through the history once more, because there is a further chapter to the story of finding Uranus that is worth telling slowly in the dark. A chapter about the tug of the invisible. After the quiet musician found his new planet, astronomers everywhere set about tracking it, charting its slow path around the sun, night after night, year after year, working out with great care the exact shape of its long loop. And as the years passed and the measurements accumulated, they noticed something strange. Uranus was not quite keeping to the path their calculations said it should follow. It was drifting, ever so slightly, ahead of where it ought to be, and then behind, wandering by the smallest amounts away from the orbit that the known pull of the sun and the known planets could account for. Something was tugging on it. Something unseen, out beyond it in the dark, was pulling gently at Uranus, nudging it off its predicted path, leaving its fingerprints in the tiny discrepancies of the numbers. And so a wonderful thing happened, one of the most beautiful things in all the history of looking up. Astronomers reasoned that there must be another planet out there, farther still, unseen, whose gravity was tugging on Uranus. And rather than search the whole sky blindly for it, they sat down with their pencils and their pages of figures and calculated, from the exact way Uranus was being pulled, precisely where that hidden planet must be. They found it first on paper, in the mathematics, in the quiet reasoning of the mind, before any eye had ever seen it. And then they turned a telescope to the spot the numbers pointed to, and there, almost exactly where the calculations said it would be, was Neptune, a new planet, the eighth, discovered not by chance, but by pure thought, conjured out of the faint tug it laid upon its neighbor. A world found in the dark by the way it leaned on another world. A planet felt before it was ever seen. There is something in that story that settles me completely. The idea that even the things we cannot see leave their gentle influence on the things we can. That the unseen is not absent, only quiet, making itself known through the softest of pulls. Out there in the dark beyond Uranus, Neptune was always there, tugging faithfully, unseen for all of history, and yet its presence was written the whole time in the wandering of its neighbor, waiting to be read. Nothing was lost. Nothing was truly hidden. It was all there, all along, in the dark, tugging softly, patient, real, whether anyone had found it yet or not. And I think there is a comfort in that for the hour we are in, the sense that the dark is not empty, that it is full of quiet presences leaning softly on one another, holding one another in their slow orbits, none of them alone, all of them gently pulled and gently pulling, bound together across the great distances by the softest and most patient of forces. You are held that way too, tonight, by low unseen pulls, by the hushed gravity of everything around you, cradled in a web of gentle influence far wider than you can feel. You are not adrift. You are held. Let us think about gravity itself for a while, since it is the thread that binds the whole slow scene together, and since it is, in its way, the most reassuring force there is. Gravity is not a violent thing. It does not grab or clutch or seize. It is the softest force in the universe, so soft that you never feel the pull of a distant planet at all, so patient that it works its effects only across the vast slow spans of time, and yet so faithful that it never once lets go, never tires, never wavers, never takes a moment's rest. It is gravity that holds Uranus in its long serene loop around the sun. Gravity that holds the moons in their tipped paths around Uranus. Gravity that holds the rings standing on edge. Gravity that gathered the whole planet together out of dust in the first place and has held it together ever since, patiently, for billions of years. And it is gravity that holds you now, right now, softly against your bed, the whole vast mass of the earth reaching up through the mattress to hold you exactly where you are, so that you cannot fall, so that you cannot drift away, so that you are kept, gently and completely, held to the world by the same patient force that keeps the planets in the sky. Feel that holding now. Feel the whole weight of your body sinking down into the bed, drawn down by that soft, faithful pull, and feel the bed pushing back up to meet it, the two forces resting against each other in perfect balance, so that you are neither falling nor floating, but simply held, suspended in a stillness made of two patient forces leaning against one another. The way Uranus is held in its orbit by the balance of its speed against the sun's soft pull, neither flying away nor falling in, simply turning, simply held, simply at rest in the arms of the very forces that shape the sky. You are part of the same balance. The same gravity that keeps a whole planet in its place keeps you in yours, and it will not let you go, not tonight, not ever, not for a single instant. You can let yourself sink into it entirely. It has you. It has always had you. It will hold you through every hour of the night without once growing tired, and it will still be holding you, softly and surely, when the morning comes. Let us drift down once more toward that pale blue-green surface and let ourselves imagine floating there, weightless, in the high cold air of Uranus, held aloft by the thickening atmosphere, drifting like a mote of down on the slow, smooth winds. You would feel no chill. In this imagining, no danger, no lack. You are only a dreaming eye, floating gently through the tender blue-green light, watching the pale clouds slide by. Below you, the atmosphere deepens into haze, and then into the strange, warm ocean. Above you, the small, bright sun hangs like a distant lantern. Or, if you have drifted to the night side, the deep field of stars wheels slowly overhead. And all around you, the air moves in its long, smooth ribbons, carrying you along without a jolt, without a shudder. Only the endless, easy flowing, sliding you around the great tipped world at the pace of a slow river, past the pale, drifting clouds, through the soft, dim light, on, in no hurry ever to arrive anywhere, because there is nowhere out here you need to be. Let yourself drift there for a while, in that high blue-green calm, and let the drifting become the same as the drifting you are doing now in your bed, the slow loosening slide towards sleep, the way your thoughts are beginning to come unmoored and float, the way the edges of the day are softening and blurring, the way you are letting go of the shore. You do not have to steer. You do not have to paddle. You are being carried on the smooth, slow winds of your own tiredness, around and around toward the deep place where sleep is. And all you have to do is float and let the current take you, the way a mote of down floats on the winds of Uranus, weightless, unhurried, going wherever the tranquil air carries it, entirely at ease with not knowing exactly where that is. Let us return to the tilt one final time, our long thread, the cheek against the cool pillow, and follow it all the way to its softest end. We have said that Uranus lies on its side, that it leans, that it turns its face slowly through the light and the dark. And you have been lying here through all of this, doing the very same thing, your own cheek pressed to your own cool pillow, your own body tipped and resting, turning slowly, if at all, through your own long night. There is a deep kinship in that, between the great tipped world out there in the dark and the small tired body here in the dark, both of them leaning, both of them resting, both of them turning their faces patiently through the night toward a morning that is coming in its own slow time. You are not so different from a planet. You are made of the same ancient dust. You keep the same old rhythm. You rest the same restful rest. And tonight, for these few hours, you can let yourself be as calm as a world that has lain on its side for 4 billion years, as patient, as unhurried, as perfectly and completely at peace. Feel the cool of the pillow against your cheek one more time now, and let it be, in your mind, the cool of space against the cheek of Uranus. The same coolness, the same rest, the same slow, patient turning of a face through the dark. Let one side of you sink fully into that coolness and simply stay there, in no hurry to turn back, keeping your own long night the way the planet keeps its own, faithfully, easily, without effort, without fear. The dark is holding you the way it holds the far side of Uranus, evenly, calmly, completely, wanting nothing from you, only giving you rest. And you can take that rest now. You can take all of it. There is nothing left to do tonight but let the dark hold you, and turn slowly and drift. Let us think for a last long while about how much has to go quietly right, out there and in here, for this stillness to exist at all. Because there is a gratitude in it that carries its own deep calm. For Uranus to keep its long, slow seasons, the sun must go on burning steadily, as it has for billions of years and will for billions more, pouring out its faint far light without a flicker. The planet must go on turning at just its speed, holding just its tilt, tracing just its loop, all of it balanced so finely that it has held for eons without faltering. And for you to lie here in your own stillness, so much has gone quietly right as well. The long day is done, the tasks are set down, the room is dark, the bed is warm, your breath is easy, your body is held. All of it, out there and in here, the whole vast machinery of the turning sky and the whole small machinery of a tired body settling towards sleep, is working, faithfully, quietly in your favor, right now, without your having to do a single thing to make it so. You have only to receive it. You have only to let it be enough. And it is enough. It is more than enough. It is a whole universe of patient calm, arranged, tonight, around the simple business of carrying you gently down into sleep. Let us follow the color one more time, that tender aquamarine, and let it fill the whole of your inner sky as you sink further down. Close your eyes a little more fully, if they are not already closed, and let a soft wash of that blue-green spread across the dark behind them. The color of the far clouds of Uranus, the color of shallow tropical water lit from below, the color of the last light at the very end of dusk. Let it be the color of your rest tonight. Let it pool and spread and deepen, filling the space behind your eyes with its calm, that serene and even blue-green with no edges and no seams, wrapping you the way it wraps the planet, from one side of you to the other, without a break. There is nothing to see in it, nothing to look for, nothing to do. It is only a color, only a peaceful, only a faint wash of aquamarine drawn across the dark, and you can rest in it the way the whole planet rests in it, wrapped, held, hushed, turned low. And beneath that color, remember, the whole world of Uranus goes down and down into warmth, into the deep warm ocean and the warm slushy dark and the warm dense heart at the center, so that even the coldest planet is warm at its middle, warm where it matters most, warm all the way down at its core. You are like that too. Tonight, however cool your hands may grow, however cool the edge of the pillow against your cheek, you are warm at your center, warm in your chest, warm in the slow deep places where your breath goes in and out, warm at the core where the tired quiet heart of you keeps its faithful patient beat. Let the cool be on the outside, the way it is for Uranus, and let the warmth be deep within, and let the two of them settle into their easy balance, cool skin and warm heart, cool dark and warm center, the way the whole planet holds its cold face to the night, and its warm heart to itself, perfectly balanced, perfectly at rest. I want to leave you, before we come to the close, with the widest and most restful picture I can offer, the whole of it, at once, held softly in the mind. Picture the sun, small and steady and faithful, burning at the center of everything. Picture the planets wheeling around it in their great calm loops, the small, quick inner worlds, the mighty giants farther out, each one turning in its own slow time, each one keeping its own long rhythm, all of them held in the same hushed patient pull, all of them moving through the same enormous calm with oceans of hushed space between them. And picture, far out toward the edge, the pale blue-green sphere of Uranus lying on its side, turning as it goes, its faint rings standing on edge, its little dreaming moons wheeling around it, one hemisphere bathed in the long dusky day and the other resting in the long even night, keeping its ancient rhythm faithfully as it has kept it for 4 billion years, in no hurry, unafraid, entirely at peace. And picture, on a small warm blue world much nearer the sun, in a dark and quiet room, one tired body lying still in the dark, keeping its own small rhythm, its own long night, its own patient turning toward the morning. All of it together, all of it calm, all of it held. All of it turning, slowly, in the same vast tender dark. That is the whole of it. That is where we have come. And now, having wandered so far, out past the Moon and Mars and Jupiter and Saturn, out to the tipped blue-green world at the edge of the cold, and back again to this small dark room where you are lying still, we can begin, slowly, to let it all go, to let the words thin out and soften, to let the pictures dissolve like the pale clouds of Uranus fading back into the serene, to let even the question itself drift away, answered, at rest, no longer needed. You have followed it all the way to its quiet end. There is nothing left now but the dark, and the warmth of your bed, and the slow faithful rhythm of your breath, and the deep patient calm that has been holding you all along. But before we let it all dissolve entirely, let us linger a little longer in a few last quiet corners of this world, the way you might linger in a warm house on your way to bed, turning off the lamps one by one, in no hurry to leave. Let us think about how the very idea of a day and a night comes undone out there. Because on Uranus these familiar words lose almost all their meaning, and there is a strange, soft freedom in that. Here on Earth a day is a simple thing, a turning from light to dark and back again in the span of a single sleep. But on Uranus, near the poles, a day and a year become nearly the same thing, one long turning of light and dark that takes 84 of our years to complete. So that a creature living at the pole of Uranus, if such a thing could ever be, would know only one sunrise and one sunset in its whole long life, a single dawn in its youth and a single dusk in its age, and between them a day longer than any human lifetime. The frantic little clock of our days, the constant restless cycling of morning and evening, simply does not exist there. There is only the long, slow breath of the seasons. One enormous inhale of light and one enormous exhale of dark, stretched across the decades, patient beyond anything we can feel. And is there not something restful in imagining a life freed from the clock like that? A life lived at the pace of the seasons rather than the pace of the hours. A life in which there was time for a childhood to unfold under a single unhurried dawn. Time for everything to happen slowly, once, and be enough. You do not have to live at the pace of the clock tonight. For these few hours, in the dark, you can let the clock dissolve the way it dissolves out there. Let the minutes stop counting themselves. Let time stretch and soften and lose its edges, until there is no more before and after, no more early and late. Only the long, slow present of the night, one single unhurried span of dark, carrying you gently toward one single unhurried dawn. Let the hours stop mattering. Let the clock go quiet. Out at the pole of Uranus there is no clock at all, only the slow turning of the light around the year. And tonight, in your bed, you can borrow that same freedom and let the night be one long, seamless thing, unmeasured, unhurried, whole. Let us think, too, of how still the planet must have been for so long before anyone knew it, and how it did not mind. For all those thousands of years while human beings watched the 5 known wanderers and told their stories, and built their calendars, and lived their whole civilizations under a sky they thought they understood. Uranus was there the entire time, turning quietly at the edge, unseen, unnamed, unbothered by its own obscurity. It kept its seasons perfectly, whether or not anyone had ever noticed them. It held its long nights and its long days in perfect faithfulness, with not a single witness anywhere in all the universe, as far as it knew, to mark them. And there is a deep peace in that, in the thought of something so content to simply be, so complete in itself, so untroubled by whether it was seen or known or understood. It did not need our attention to be whole. It did not need our stories to have meaning. It was enough, all by itself, turning in the dark, keeping its calm. You can be like that tonight too. You do not need to be seen, or known, or understood, or attended to, in order to rest. You do not need anyone watching over you, or thinking of you, or holding you in mind. You can be like Uranus in the long ages before it was found, complete in yourself, at peace in yourself, turning quietly in your own dark, needing nothing from anyone, whole and tranquil, and enough exactly as you are, exactly where you are, in this bed, in this room, in this dark, resting the deep, restful rest of something that has nothing left to prove and nowhere left to be. Just this, just here, just the slow turn of your own quiet night. It is enough. You are enough. You always were. Let us listen, one last time, to the silence out there, and let it teach us its stillness. There is no sound on Uranus that any ear could hear, no voice, no cry, no music, no noise of any kind carried across that airless dark. And yet it is not a lonely silence. It is a full silence, a complete silence, the silence of a thing perfectly at rest, the way a sleeping house is silent, the way a snowfall is silent, the way the deepest part of the night is silent. A silence that is not empty but brimming, not a lack but a fullness, the silence of everything having finally come to rest. Let that silence spread through you now. Let it quiet the last murmuring corners of your mind. Let the small voices of the day, the leftover thoughts, the unfinished sentences, the little worries still circling, let them all grow quiet the way the whole planet is quiet, not silenced by force, but simply settled, simply stilled, simply come to rest at last in the great calm silence of the deep. There is nothing to say tonight. There is nothing to think. There is only the silence out there among the stars, and the silence here in your room, the same silence, the same rest, wrapping the whole turning world and the whole turning sky in one enormous, tender, brimming tranquil. And in that quiet, feel how little separates you from all of it. The atoms in your body, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the very carbon that might, in the crushing heart of Uranus, be pressed slowly into diamond. All of it was forged long ago in the fiery hearts of ancient stars, scattered across space when those stars died, gathered up again into new worlds and new suns, and, eventually, into you. You are made of the same old star stuff as Uranus. You share a common origin with the pale blue-green world at the edge of the cold, with its rings and its moons, with the small, bright, faithful sun, with every point of light in the whole vast field of stars. You are not a stranger to the universe, looking in from outside. You are the universe, a small, warm thinking piece of it, lying in the dark, contemplating the rest of itself, and finding at the end of the long day that the rest of itself is peaceful, and patient, and kind, and endlessly at peace. You belong to all of it. You came from all of it. And when you rest tonight, you rest as a part of the whole great turning thing, held in it, made of it, at home in it, all the way down. Let us take one more slow walk out across the night side, the very last one, and this time let us simply be there, without explaining anything, without measuring anything, only resting in the scene. Above you, the deep field of stars, steady and unblinking, thousands upon thousands of them. Patient points of white and blue and faint gold, hung in a dark, so complete it has a softness to it, a velvet quality, a depth you could sink into. Below you, the pale even curve of the planet, faintly aglow in starlight, its blue-green dimmed almost to gray in the long night, smooth and calm and endless, curving away in every direction into the dark. No sun, no hurry, no sound. Only the slow, certain wheeling of the stars overhead as the planet turns beneath them. And the deep, even cold, and the deep, even calm, and the sense everywhere of a great patient thing at rest. You could stay here forever and never once be afraid. There is nothing here that is not at peace. There is nothing here that would ask a single thing of you. There is only the rest, only the dark, only the slow turning, only the calm. And this darkness, this long even darkness on the far side of the tipped world, is the same darkness that is in your room tonight, the same darkness that is behind your closed eyes, the same darkness that has held every sleeper who has ever lived, in every room, in every age, since the very beginning. It is not a thing to fear. It never was. It is the oldest friend we have, the darkness, the one that comes each night to draw the day to a close, to soften the edges, to hush the noise, to carry us down into rest, and to keep us there safely until the light returns. It held you when you were small. It will hold you tonight. It holds the far side of Uranus through its 20-year night the same way it holds you through this one, evenly, patiently, without judgment, without demand, only holding, only keeping, only carrying you gently down. Let it. Let the dark be your friend tonight, the way it is the planet's friend, the way it has always, quietly, been yours. Lean your cheek into it, the way the great world leans its cheek into the cool of space, and let it hold the whole weight of you, and rest. Let us think, in these last unhurried minutes, about how the planet came by its blue-green hushed. Because even the story of its color is a story of things settling into peace. Deep within the atmosphere of Uranus, mixed through the hydrogen and the helium that make up most of its air, there is that trace of methane we spoke of, the gas that drinks the red light and lets the blue-green escape. But there is more to the color than that, a haze, a soft high veil of tiny frozen particles that hangs above the deeper clouds like a thin fog drawn across the whole world, softening everything beneath it, blurring the bands, muting the features, so that the planet wears not a sharp and vivid face, but a soft and dreaming one, its colors laid on like watercolor, rather than paint, gentle at every edge. It is a world seen as though through frosted glass, as though through half-closed eyes, as though through the soft blur that comes over your own vision now as sleep begins to gather at the corners of it. Everything about Uranus is soft-focused, hazed, dreamlike. The way the room around you is beginning to grow soft-focused and hazed and dreamlike as your eyes lose their grip on the dark. Let your vision blur the way the face of Uranus is blurred. Let the edges of everything go soft. There is nothing you need to see clearly now, and let us think of the two great giants that flank Uranus in the outer solar system, Saturn on the inner side and Neptune on the far side, and how Uranus rests between them like the quiet middle child, neither the grandest nor the strangest, keeping to itself at the edge of the cold. Saturn, with its bright and glorious rings, catches every eye. Neptune, deeper blue and racked by the fastest winds in the whole solar system, has its own fierce beauty. And Uranus lies between them, pale and even and smooth, the calmest face of the four great giants, the one that makes the least fuss, the one that has settled most fully into its own peaceful. There is no need to be the brightest or the strangest or the most storied. There is a deep peace in being the serene one, the even one, the one that keeps to itself and turns quietly at the edge and asks for nothing. You can be like that tonight. You do not have to be remarkable to rest. You do not have to be the grandest thing in the sky. You can simply be the tranquil one, the even one, turning quietly in your own dark at the edge of your own long night. And that is more than enough. That is everything. Let us think, too, of the sheer age of the light that falls on Uranus, because there is a slow marvel in it that carries its own hush. The light that touches the far clouds of Uranus at this moment left the surface of the sun a little under 3 hours ago, but the energy carried in that light is far, far older than that. It was made deep in the core of the sun, in the crushing hot heart of it, and it took not hours but many thousands of years to work its slow way out through the dense layers of the sun to the surface, bouncing and being absorbed and re-emitted over and over, across an unthinkable span of time, before it finally broke free and flew out across space. So the pale light that lies now on the blue-green clouds of Uranus is ancient light, light that began its journey out of the sun's core when the first human cities were still young, patient light, light that has been a very long time in coming. And there is such calm in that thought, the thought of light so old and so patient, taking its time, in no hurry, arriving at last, faint and soft, on a distant world, after a journey longer than all of recorded history. Everything out there takes its time. Everything out there arrives when it arrives. And you, too, can take your time tonight. You, too, can arrive at sleep whenever you arrive, in no hurry, patient as ancient light, faithful as the slow glow that finds its way at last to the far clouds of Uranus. Let us rest a while in the thought of how hushed the outer solar system truly is, out where Uranus turns, because it is the quietest neighborhood in all the sun's wide realm. The inner solar system, where the Earth swings, is a busier place, warmer, brighter, more crowded, the planets nearer together, the light stronger, the pace of things a little quicker. But out where Uranus turns, everything spreads apart into a vast and spacious peaceful. The planets are so far from one another that from Uranus even mighty Saturn would be only a bright star, and the Earth would be lost entirely in the glare near the sun, a tiny mote too close to the fierce small point of light to be seen at all. Out there it is spacious beyond measure, serene beyond measure, slow beyond measure, a wide, dark, hushed neighborhood where the few great worlds turn far apart in the deep, each one keeping to its own long orbit, each one wrapped in its own long silence, all of them held softly in the faint far reach of the sun's patient light. It is the outskirts of everything, the quiet edge, the hushed far room of the solar system, where the noise of the inner worlds does not reach. And you can go there now, in your mind, out to that wide serene edge, and rest in its spaciousness, and let its stillness be your quiet, and let its slowness be your slowness, and let its deep, untroubled stillness settle over you like a blanket drawn up in the dark. Let us return, softly, to our thread one final time before the close, to the long tilted night held like a cheek against a cool pillow. You have carried this image with you through the whole long wander tonight, and now you can let it carry you the rest of the way. The planet leans. It has leaned for 4 billion years. It will lean for 4 billion more. And in its lean it keeps a night so long and so calm and so complete that it has become, in our imagining tonight, a kind of teacher of rest, showing us how to lie down on our side in the dark and simply stay there, unhurried, unafraid, letting the long night be long, letting the light come back in its own slow time, trusting the turning, trusting the dark, trusting that morning knows the way. Your cheek is against your pillow now the way the planet's cheek is against the cool of space. You are leaning now the way the planet leans. You are keeping your own long night now the way it keeps its own. And there is nothing to do in that night but rest and turn slowly and wait, without waiting, for the light that always, always comes back around. Let us give one last thought to the moons circling that tipped world, wheeling around it in the long dark, because there is a tenderness in imagining them keeping their patient watch. They are small, most of them, dim worlds of ice and dark rock, and they circle Uranus in the same tilted plane the planet keeps, up and over its poles, following it faithfully through all its long seasons, never straying, never tiring, held to it by the soft, sure pull of its gravity across the deep. Through the 20-year day and the 20-year night, they keep their slow orbits, catching the faint far light on their frozen faces, and then turning it back into shadow, over and over, wheeling around their great blue-green companion in the silence, as they have for billions of years, as they will for billions more. They are never alone, and neither is the planet, for they keep each other company out there in the dark, the great tipped world and its ring of small faithful moons, bound together, turning together, resting together in the deep. And you are kept company too tonight, though the room is dark and peaceful, by the slow faithful rhythm of your own breath, by the warmth of your own held body, by the whole vast patient turning universe wheeling calmly around you, none of it ever leaving, all of it holding you softly in place, so that you, too, are never truly alone in your long night, only resting, only turning, only carried gently on toward the coming light. Tonight has been about a world that lies on its side in the dark, and about the long, slow night it keeps, and about why one whole side of it can turn and still never come around to face the sun. Tonight has been about a planet tipped over long ago by some ancient blow or some patient endless leaning, a planet that made a life of its lean, a rhythm of its tilt, a long calm music of its strange extreme seasons. Tonight has been about the faint far light that takes hours to reach it, and the deep even cold that is only slowness, only stillness, only things coming softly to rest. Tonight has been about a quiet musician at a homemade telescope and his sister keeping the records in the cold, finding a whole new world at the edge of the known. Tonight has been about rings standing on edge and dreaming moons wheeling around a tipped world and a lone small spacecraft still sailing outward through the dark. Tonight has been about a hidden planet felt through the softest of tugs, and about gravity, the gentlest and most faithful of all the forces, holding everything, holding you. Tonight has been about diamonds falling like slow snow through the warm heart of a distant world, and pale clouds blooming and fading in a tender blue-green sky. And through all of it, tonight has been about the long tilted night held like a cheek against a cool pillow. A darkness that is not fear, but rest, not absence, but completion, not an ending, but the deep-held breath before the slow return of the light. The light always returns. The light always returns. The light always returns. To the far side of Uranus after its 20-year night, to your dark room after the long hours of sleep, to every darkness that has ever been, the light always finds its slow way back, faithful and unhurried and sure. You do not have to wait for it. You do not have to watch for it. You do not have to do a single thing to bring it. It knows the way. It has always known the way. Rest now. Rest now. Rest now and let the light find you in the morning, the way it always, always does. And none of this needs anything from you tonight. The planet does not need you to understand it. The question does not need you to answer it. The dark does not need you to be brave for it. The light does not need you to summon it. Nothing that we have wandered through tonight asks anything of you at all. You can set every bit of it down. You can set down the numbers and the names, the tilt and the orbit and the long slow seasons, the whole vast turning sky. And you can set down, too, whatever you carried into this room from your day, whatever is still faintly circling in the quiet corners of your mind. None of it needs holding tonight. None of it needs solving tonight. None of it needs you. You are free, entirely free, to do the one and only thing that is left to do, which is nothing at all, which is to lie here in the dark, held and warm and calm, and let yourself be carried down into sleep. In a little while, when this comes to its end, there will be another quiet exploration waiting on the screen, another slow wander through some far and lovely corner of the sky, ready to begin all on its own. You do not need to reach for it. You do not need to choose it. You do not need to lift a finger or open an eye. Let it begin on its own, softly, in the dark, and let its voice carry on where this one leaves off, walking you further down, deeper into the night, the way one long, slow season on Uranus gives way to the next, without anyone having to turn the world by hand. It will be there. It will begin. You can simply keep resting and let it come. And if some small part of you is still awake, still faintly turning something over, I will leave you with one soft question to carry down into sleep, not to answer, only to hold. If you could stand on the night side of Uranus and look up into that deep field of unblinking stars, in that complete and brimming silence, with no sun anywhere and no hurry anywhere and nothing at all asking anything of you, what is the one worry you would finally, gladly set down there in the dark and leave behind? You do not have to find the answer. You can let the question itself do the settling. Let it carry that one held thing softly out of your hands and off into the peaceful, out among the patient stars, where there is room enough to keep it for you all night long. And now, let everything grow soft. Let the words thin out and fade like the pale clouds of Uranus dissolving back into the hushed. Let your breath go slow and low and easy, tending itself in the dark. Let your body grow heavy, sinking down into the bed, held by the soft, faithful pull that holds the whole turning sky. Let your cheek rest into the cool of the pillow, the way the great tipped world rests its face into the cool of space, in no hurry, unafraid, keeping its own long, patient night. Let one side of you sink fully into the dark and simply stay there, resting, turning slowly, if at all, toward a morning that is already, quietly, on its way. There is nothing more to do. there is nowhere more to be. There is only the dark, and the warmth, and the slow turning, and the deep calm holding you all the way down. Let your last thoughts of the night grow faint and far, like the small bright sun seen from the edge of the cold, a single distant point too gentle now to hold your gaze. Let them fade. Let them go. Rest now. Drift now. Let the long night carry you, the way it carries the far side of Uranus, patiently, tenderly, all the way to the coming light. Sleep well.